Sony's been pretty good about locking down the PS5's built-in browser, but here's 2 ways you can access it right now. I know everyone's freaking out because everything is getting more expensive, but the price of the PS5 will remain the same because Sony was ahead of the curve. And finally, there is a silver lining to Helldivers 2 coming to Xbox, and man, I'm excited. How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. I hope you're having a great week. We're covering all the latest PlayStation news that has to do with your PS5. If that sounds good to you, subscribe and set your notifications to all. I don't know why these intros are becoming more YouTubery. I'm just gonna roll right through it and get into the first news story here, because one of the biggest features that people really want to see on the PlayStation 5 is a web browser, because we had it on the PS3, we had it on the PS4, hell, we even had it on the PlayStation Vita, and on the Xbox, you get Desktop Edge. So like, I used to use that all the time on my Series X to watch Patreon videos that were uploaded to their native video player, because I could just use the controller of my Xbox Series X, go onto Edge browser and just go to Patreon, and everything worked great. And the PS5 is a powerful enough console to where having a web browser would honestly be awesome. If you're wondering why Sony has never brought this feature to the PS5 natively, even though it has a built-in web browser, it's because of hacking. Sony has been notoriously hacked throughout the last few generations. I don't know if it's their security, I don't know what it is, but every PlayStation console under the sun gets jailbroken, and then people figure out how to play pirated games. And on the PSP specifically, and even the Vita, the web browser opened up a lot of doors into downloading files that would help you hack the system. So this time around, they said, look, we're just going to nip it in the bud. We're going to remove this feature, even though a lot of people want it, and it's never coming to the console. So the way people got around this back in the day was actually by using the PS5's built-in messaging system and Twitter. So what you would do is send yourself a link on Twitter, or send your friend a link on Twitter. Then on the PS5 itself, you could open that link, and then if you had a private Twitter or something that, you know, wasn't public, you could tweet links over and over again that you wanted to access on your PlayStation 5. So like, if you wanted to access YouTube, you would just tweet out a YouTube link and then access that private Twitter. Bam, you're on YouTube, you can watch YouTube videos. Sony actually did patch that out, but it took them a long time. Unfortunately, you can't do it anymore, but a user on Reddit figured out 2 interesting ways that you're able to re-access that web browser right now. So the first way is awesome, and I can't believe someone figured this out. All you have to do is go to the support page for Sony on the PlayStation Store. It'll pull up Sony's support website, and then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's 4 social links, right? So you can get to Instagram, you can get to X, and of course, you can also get to YouTube through this. So it'll open up YouTube on your PlayStation 5, and you're even able to log in and watch PSReady to your heart's content, or, you know, Matt Armstrong if you're into cars, or whatever YouTuber you're into. You're able to get to YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere else that way. Unfortunately, this way you can't actually type in web addresses, but like, what else are you doing on your PlayStation 5? The other way you can access the web browser has to do with Minecraft. So if you go to the Minecraft store within the Minecraft game, it actually just pulls up a web page, like a web browser within the game, and then you can use that to actually access the internet. I think the support page one will probably be resolved pretty quickly, because all they have to do is remove those social links, because who really cares, honestly, if you get to the Sony Twitter or the PlayStation Twitter from the bottom of the web page, or they could block the specific browser that the PS5 uses from accessing those websites. I think that one will be patched pretty quickly, but because Microsoft owns Minecraft and they're the ones behind this, they're not going to make a whole new Minecraft store just to block the browser from being used on the PlayStation 5. So I'd imagine that this one will last a little bit longer. So if you have Minecraft, there's an interesting way that you can access the web browser. Personally, I don't really have much use for this. I just see the comments from you guys all the time asking about a web browser. Like, every time they update the PS5's firmware, someone inevitably in the comments is like, where is the web browser? And I understand it for someone who's younger, maybe, really, but like, every kid has a phone or a tablet these days, and like, I have Apple TVs on all my TVs. Hell, even my TVs themselves have built-in web browsers and ways to access the internet. So like, I just can't imagine a scenario where you only have a PS5 as a way to access the internet. But if you do, I mean, it's not the most elegant solution in the world, but it'll work. Now that we're getting into the late stage of the PS5's life cycle, maybe Sony could add this in a future update. I mean, people really want it for some reason, obviously just to hack their PS5s, but outside of that, having a web browser on your TV is cool. And it is kind of a bummer that this is like the first PlayStation console that actually has a strong enough CPU to run modern internet pages without bogging down completely. Back in the day, I would actually use the browser on my Nintendo Wii to go to like 123movies.net. I think I watched House of a Thousand Corpses and Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle on my TV using Wi-Fi PS1 way back when the Wii was popular. So I was way ahead of the curve back then, but yeah, I have not had a need to use the internet browser on my TV with my PS5 or any PlayStation console for that matter in a long time. Like literally the only use case I can think of is the one I already mentioned, where I would use the Series X to access Patreon videos, but Patreon built in YouTube support. So like people stopped using their native web player. So I could just open up the YouTube video in the YouTube app on my phone. It would go into my history. And then on my TV, when I opened up the YouTube app, it would say continue watching. So I even stopped needing the web browser on the Series X beyond a certain point, and I haven't used that thing in like over a year. The last time I used it was to play Gears 3 with my friends. I gotta sell it, man. Like it's just collecting dust under my TV over there, and I'm so mad I bought it. There was no reason to buy that console. That's one of the biggest regrets of my gaming history. So yeah, there's two ways to access the web browser on your PlayStation 5, but let's talk about the prices of everything, because if you've been online, if you've been to the grocery store, if you've been anywhere, you've definitely noticed that whether it's because of tariffs or years of inflation, the price on everything has skyrocketed through the roof, except gas in my area. That's kind of cheap, but everything else is pretty damn expensive. And with the Switch and Switch OLED price going up, controller prices going up, peripherals getting canceled because of the tariff cost of importing the parts you need to make them, everyone's kind of worried about the PlayStation 5 price going up, which would be a huge disaster because unlike in past generations, or even with the original Switch and Switch OLED, the PS5 price actual MSRP has not fallen. It's actually gone up since the PS5 came out, because back when it came out, you could get the digital model for $400, you could get the disc drive model for $500. But then when they released the PS5 Slim, they boosted the price of the digital model to $450 and kept the disc drive enabled one at $500. So they did increase the price on the digital one. They have done a few sales that have dropped the digital below $400, and I hope you took advantage of those when they did it, because the price has remained the same. So everyone's worried that because of all these things that I already mentioned, the price is going to increase, but it looks like Sony thought ahead on this, and for the time being, it looks like the prices are going to stay the same. So for the vast majority of this generation, the PS5 was being assembled in China, which makes sense because a lot of electronics are assembled in China. I think the chips for the PS5 are manufactured in Taiwan, and then they ship everything to China and manufacture it. Then they put it on a boat, ship it to the United States, ship it over to Europe, and then it makes its way to store shelves. The way they're beating the tariff game is just by playing it. So like with Apple, you know, they don't manufacture the iPhone in the United States, so they were going to get tariffed by making iPhones in other countries and importing them to the United States. The way they got around that is by opening a factory here in the United States to manufacture the glass for the screens, and I guess the entire screen for the iPhones will be manufactured in the United States. That was satisfactory to the new White House administration, so they said, hey, you're doing that, you're hiring a lot of American workers, you're not going to be tariffed, good job. So what Sony's doing is they're manufacturing at least part of the PS5, or at least assembling it here in the United States to sell here. And then for countries that don't have tariffs for making consoles in other places, they're just going to keep doing things how they're doing them. This is obviously a nuanced conversation. I don't really have an opinion on it. My opinion starts and ends at the price of the PS5. And honestly, I think it's a little expensive for where it's at in its life cycle. I think a big reason why the prices haven't fallen is because, of course, chips have not fallen in price for manufacturing since around 2020. And that's what they were hoping would happen, because in the past, you know, you use an older chip in a console that allows you to sell it at a discount. You also take a little bit of a loss on it so that you make it up later with games. Everything is good. And then when the cost of actually manufacturing the console falls because the chip gets even older, you can then lower the MSRP, increase the storage bundle in a game. And that's how things worked for every generation up until the PS5, where they didn't really stay the same. They went up in price, but then they kind of stayed the same. And then there are a few sales here and there. That's what I think is going to continue going forward, especially considering Sony wants to keep the PS5 around as long as possible. Like they want the PS5 to be a multi-generational console. Like when the PS6 comes out, the people who want to be there day one on the bleeding edge of tech, they'll buy the PS6, but people who want to keep their PS5 or PS5 Pro, just like with this generation, they're going to be supported into the future. But unlike last generation, the PS5 was pretty cutting edge when it came out, so there shouldn't be as many issues with porting games over to the PS5 and then doing a few patches or like resolution increases or frame rate increases for the PS6. I don't really know how I feel about it. We'll just have to wait and see. If we start seeing developers doing what EA is doing with Battlefield, which is listening to their fans and giving them what they want with improved graphics and great frame rate, I don't really have a problem with it, because that's where the creativity shines. If you meet the baseline of good performance, quality product at launch, not stripping out parts and pieces to sell as DLC, and then add in stuff after it comes out that makes the game even better, that's really what we can hope for right now, because because the state of game quality over the past generation has been pretty bad. I mean, games are taking forever to make. They're costing way more than ever to make. They're performing worse than ever. It's not a good situation, but it seems like everyone's kind of at the point where if they continue screwing up, they're going to go out of business. So whether it's for good intentions or not, they're being forced to listen to the people who want to buy their games instead of trying to make games for an audience that they think exists, but we all know doesn't exist. Some other stuff that was revealed during this business update call to the shareholders was that they're doing great. They're making more revenue than ever. They're finally on top profit-wise with both hardware and software. Of course, the biggest issue is that the games driving most of the money on the PlayStation ecosystem are not Sony games. People aren't showing up for stuff like Spider-Man 2. Like, they're selling decent, but they're not selling what they need to sell to recoup their budget. So it's good that Sony's making a lot of money from people buying battle passes, people buying stuff in Fortnite, people buying extra add-ons and spending money on PS Plus every month. That's what's keeping Sony afloat right now, but that's why they also talked about needing a new live service game to really hit, because right now they're making 30% of every purchase on these live service games. They'd obviously love to make 100. They also talked about how PlayStation is influencing the other divisions of Sony. So like cameras, TVs, computer monitors, laptops, Android phones, like everything like that. They're making less and less money on hardware as time is going on because hardware is getting so expensive. So they're looking at making more anime. They're looking at making more movies. Regardless, everything is going good at Sony, and that's good for us as PlayStation gamers. I'm feeling pretty good. I just hope a lot of these single player first party games hit, because that's the only way we're going to start to see more of them coming out that actually push the PS5. But speaking of great Sony games, let's talk about Helldivers 2 because it's about to get some big updates. It's coming to Xbox on August 26th. I'm done beating that dead horse. Like, it's happening. I don't like it, but it is happening. I'm glad they have to buy it. I'm glad it's not on Game Pass day one. That is a good sort of middle ground between PlayStation fans and Xbox fans, but they just put out a new trailer that's awesome. It has Here Comes the Boom as the backing track. Also, Elden Ring Night Rain just had a trailer that had Evanescence in the background. It's bringing back my high school days. I like that this is coming back. I mean, it's going to be short-lived because the 90s era was like, you know, very quick as well, but I love that era growing up, so I'm glad to see these awesome songs being undercut to my favorite game trailers. But at the end of the new trailer with Here Comes the Boom, they like cut to black and then they cut back in and they play the ODST theme. So like, if we are going to see any silver lining outside of the player base being massively expanded, if Xbox people show up to buy Helldivers 2, it's that we're also going to get ODST armor finally in Helldivers 2. So like, you're going to have squads that are running around with Killzone players, ODST players. The ODST armor is just so damn cool that like, even if it is an Xbox property, I'm going to buy that Warbond day one. I want that armor in the game so bad, and I've wanted it since the game came out. I'd also assume that just like with Killzone, they're going to introduce some weapons from ODST. So we're going to get Halo weapons, which are some of the best weapons of all time. Like, if you're going to pick one weapon from ODST, SMG, dog. Like, the SMG in ODST is one of my favorite Halo weapons of all time because it's just a regular SMG and it has a silencer on it. So I feel like that will do great in Helldivers 2. If they're going to look through the rest of Halo, of course, the shotgun from Halo 1 would be an incredible sort of addition. The rocket launcher, the Spanker. I mean, there's so many great guns they could pull in from Halo 1. Some of the Covenant ones would be cool, like the Needler, but I'm there for the ODST and UNSC weapons because, you know, if there's one thing that could make Helldivers 2 better, let's just be real, it's guns from Halo. I think they could just improve the overall look, feel, and playability of the game, so I will be jumping back in. I'm still forced to play on PC because save transferring is still not a thing. I'll never forgive them for announcing that day one and forcing me to spend money twice, but you know, there's crossplay, there's PSN integration, so it could be worse. If you see me online, feel free to join my lobbies. They'll always be empty because none of my friends play Helldivers anymore, so I'm gonna need your help. Anyway, guys, that's all I've got for you in this one. As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching and shape on.